All right, we need to talk about something at the heart of the tech world that makes absolutely no sense. Picture this. The most hyped up company on the entire planet, the one everyone says is the future, is actually losing money on its main product. And yet somehow, it's valued at $500 billion. Welcome to the great AI bubble.
I mean, this is the kind of statement that should give any investor a heart attack. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, just came right out and said it. Their premium product isn't profitable. For every single person who pays them, they lose money. So the more popular they get, the more cash they burn. That's not just bad business, it's the complete opposite of how business is supposed to work.
So let's get this straight. You have a product that's designed to lose money, but it's attached to a company valued like one of the biggest in the world. How on earth is that possible? Well, that's the big mystery we're going to unravel today.
To really get what's happening now, we have to rewind the clock back to the Big Bang that started this whole frenzy. It all kicked off on what seemed like a totally normal Wednesday back in November 2022, when OpenAI unleashed ChatGPT on a world that had no idea what was coming.
The speed of it all was just staggering. I mean, think about it. For Instagram to get to 100 million users, it took 2.5 years. Facebook? 4.5 years. ChatGPT did it in 60 days. 60! It became the fastest-growing app in human history, and that sent a massive shockwave of pure panic across Silicon Valley.
And you can bet that inside Google, it was a full-on code-red crisis. These guys literally invented the core technology behind ChatGPT. Their names are on the research papers. But they were just paralyzed, scared of lawsuits and bad press. OpenAI, on the other hand, they had no such fears. They just shipped it. And in doing so, they triggered an absolute gold rush.
And what a rush it was. Microsoft immediately threw $10 billion at OpenAI. Amazon started dumping billions into a rival called Anthropic, and venture capitalists, they started funding literally anything with AI in the name. We're talking AI-powered toothbrushes, you name it. There's even a company that raised $30 million just to summarize what other AIs were saying. It was wild.
This quote right here perfectly captures the vibe of mid-2023. It wasn't about having a solid product or a plan for revenue. It was about getting a piece of the action at any price. But all this hype, all this frantic spending, it was being built on a foundation that was getting terrifyingly expensive.
You know, every gold rush has its costs. But in the AI gold rush, the costs are just astronomical. We're talking about a potential $7 trillion bill.
So the first piece of this giant puzzle is the hardware. These things called GPUs, the special computer chips that power all this AI, they suddenly became the single most valuable commodity on the planet. More than gold, more than oil. And Nvidia, the company that makes most of them, saw its value just explode. A new king was crowned, built on silicon.
But what does that really mean on the ground? Well, for a small startup just trying to train its own AI model, just renting the GPUs they needed could cost over $1.1 million a month. The barrier to entry was insane.
Which brings us right back to OpenAI. In 2024, they brought in $3.7 billion in revenue. Pretty good, right? Except they lost $5 billion. Let me say that again. They didn't just fail to make a profit, they burned through every single dollar they made and then torched another $1.5 billion on top of that.
And that's just one company. The entire industry is projected to need $6.7 trillion in infrastructure spending by the year 2030. That's trillions for chips, for data centers, for power to run it all. To put that in perspective for you, that is more than the entire GDP of Japan.
So, why does this matter? Well, to justify that kind of spending, the AI industry needs to be making about $2 trillion in revenue every year by 2030. Where are they now? About $200 billion. That is a tenfold gap between today's reality and tomorrow's very expensive promise.
And while the financial math was getting uglier and uglier, the products themselves started showing some really serious cracks. We all heard about hallucinations, which is just a polite way of saying the AIs were just making stuff up. For example, Google's AI found a joke on Reddit and then confidently told users to put glue on their pizza. It's funny, right? But it's also a huge reliability problem. What happens when an AI gives you bad medical advice or faulty legal analysis? And then the lawsuits started rolling in. From the New York Times, from famous authors, from artists, all of them claiming their copyrighted work was stolen to train these models. All of a sudden, that perfect futuristic image was getting pretty tarnished by some very real-world problems.
So, if the costs are completely insane, the path to making money is a total mirage, and the products are fundamentally flawed, why hasn't this bubble just popped already?
Well, the answer lies with the very people who are inflating it, the only ones rich enough to keep this game going.
The best way to think about it is like a high-stakes poker game. The players are Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and Meta. They've all got basically unlimited chips, and they know the pot in the middle of the table is getting ridiculously big. But here's the thing, none of them can afford to fold. If one of them backs down, the others could literally win the entire future of technology. So they just keep raising the stakes, pouring in billions and billions more.
This spending binge isn't being driven by some clear plan to make a profit. No, it's driven by the primal fear of being left behind. It's a defense strategy, not an offense strategy.
This right here is the terror that haunts every single big tech boardroom. They all remember BlackBerry. They were the absolute kings of mobile. And then the iPhone happened, and they hesitated for just a second. In a few short years, they were totally irrelevant, and absolutely nobody is willing to risk being the next BlackBerry.
So, if it's just fear and a nearly infinite supply of cash that's keeping this bubble afloat, how does it end? Because let's be honest, bubbles don't last forever. Eventually, something always forces a return to reality.
And historically, that something usually comes in one of two forms. First, the money just disappears. That's exactly what happened in the dot-com crash. Interest rates go up, the funding dries up, and poof, companies just vanish. The second way is a big, embarrassing meltdown, a single catastrophic failure, like Lehman Brothers in 2008 or FTX in the crypto world that just shatters confidence across the entire system.
So where are we right now? We're in this really strange limbo. The money from big tech is still flowing like a river. So that first condition isn't met. And while there have been glitches and lawsuits, we haven't seen that one massive, confidence-shattering meltdown. Yet. The tension is definitely building.
Which leaves us with this one last thought. We're not watching the explosion right now. We're in that quiet, tense moment right before it. The deep breath before the scream. The only question left is, how loud is it going to be?